I never saw it coming. I was holding the microphone when my daughter's wedding fell apart. The DJ had just asked if anyone objected to this union. My hand shot up before I could think, before I could stop myself, before the rational part of my brain could remind me that what I was about to do would destroy everything. I stood up from the back row, the very last row where they'd seated me like some distant cousin nobody really wanted there. Row 15, I'd counted. 15 rows behind where a father should sit. The chair was one of those cheap folding ones, white plastic with a bow tied around it that had already come loose. My dress was the navy blue polyester I'd bought at Goodwill, the only one that still fit after I'd lost 30 pounds this year from stress. I have something to show you all. My voice cracked. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone and walked toward the front. The photographer was still positioned by the altar, camera hanging loose now. 200 guests turned to stare at me. I could feel their eyes, their judgment. Who was this woman interrupting this beautiful moment? The beautiful moment that had cost someone $40,000. Not me. I wasn't invited to contribute. I wasn't invited at all. "Excuse me, ma'am." The wedding planner rushed toward me, a thin woman in her 30s with a clipboard and panic in her eyes. I ignored her. I connected my phone to the projector they'd been using for the slideshow, the one that had just displayed 30 photographs of my daughter Melissa growing up. And in every single photo from the last year, there he was. Marcus, my brother, her real dad. Not one photo of me. The screen flickered to life. PDF document. Medical laboratory letterhead. DNA paternity test results. "I have been raising a child for 28 years, I said into the microphone, and my voice came out stronger now. Steadier. I worked 3 jobs. Overnight shifts at the packaging plant, weekend cleaning at the hospital, afternoons at the grocery store. I gave everything. The ballroom was silent. Even the string quartet had stopped playing. On the screen, the numbers told the story. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. "She's not my daughter," I said. "She's my niece." I watched Melissa's face, the confusion, then the understanding, then the horror. Her mother, my ex-wife, had an affair with my brother 30 years ago. He knew. They both knew. And they let me pay for everything while he played the fun uncle twice a year. Marcus stood up. His tuxedo probably cost more than my car. "Tom, don't do this." "Don't do this?" My laugh came out harsh. "You let me believe she was mine for 28 years. You watched me work myself to the bone. And last year, when she found out the truth, you both decided I wasn't worth inviting to her wedding." I turned to Melissa. She was crying now, mascara running down her face. Her dress was gorgeous, off-white lace with a train that probably cost $8,000. I knew because I'd looked it up online after I saw the photos on Instagram. The wedding I wasn't invited to. "I got a message last week," I continued, "from my daughter. Except she's not my daughter, is she?" I pulled out my phone again, found the screenshot, displayed it on the projector. Message from Melissa. "Coming anyway. Lol, you're not walking me down the aisle. Marcus is my real dad. He's the one who was actually there for me. You were just the guy who paid bills." A gasp rippled through the crowd. "Just the guy who paid bills," I repeated. "I was at every dance recital, every parent-teacher conference, every midnight fever, every nightmare. I taught her to ride a bike, helped with homework until 2 in the morning, held her when boys broke her heart." My voice broke. "And when she needed money for college, I gave her everything. I cashed out my retirement, my savings, everything, $200,000 for her education." Marcus tried to approach me. "Tom, please." "That money," I continued, looking straight at Melissa. "I withdrew it yesterday. Every penny, donated it to the Children's Hospital Pediatric Cancer Ward. There's a plaque going up next month in honor of all the fathers who actually raised their children." Melissa's cry was piercing. "You can't. That was my money." "It was never your money. It was my sacrifice. My 3 decades of sacrifice for someone who couldn't even invite me to her wedding." The room erupted, shouts, crying. Marcus tried to grab my arm, but I jerked away. "Want money?" I asked, looking at both of them. Ask your real father. The one who makes six figures and drives a BMW. The one who took credit for raising you while doing none of the work. I set down the microphone carefully on the DJ's table. The thud echoed through the sound system. Then I walked out. The evening air hit me like a wave. June in California, warm and dry. The venue was one of those places with manicured gardens and fairy lights strung between trees. Beautiful, expensive. Everything I could never afford to give her. My car was parked at the far end of the lot. A 2004 Honda Civic with rust on the bumper and a crack in the windshield I'd been meaning to fix for 2 years. My phone started ringing before I even reached it. Marcus, declined. Melissa, declined. Unknown number, declined. I sat in the driver's seat and let myself shake. Let myself feel it. 28 years of my life. Gone. Built on a lie. The DNA test had taken 3 days to process. I'd driven to the clinic the same afternoon I got Melissa's message. The one that said I wasn't walking her down the aisle. The one that called me just the guy who paid bills. Something had snapped in me. Some final thread. I'd remembered things. Little things that hadn't made sense at the time. The way my ex-wife Sarah had insisted we didn't need a paternity test when Melissa was born. Don't you trust me? The way Marcus always sent gifts but never actually helped. The way Sarah left when Melissa was 6 months old and never looked back. Never fought for custody. Never paid child support. The way Marcus had suddenly gotten interested in Melissa's life around her 16th birthday. Started taking her to fancy dinners. Bought her first car. Paid for set prep. He's just being a good uncle, I'd thought. I'd been so stupid. The test results came back on a Tuesday. I'd been at work, my current job at the warehouse, loading boxes onto trucks. My supervisor called me into the office because I'd gone pale reading my phone. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. Probability of uncle relationship, 99.97%. They'd tested Marcus too. I'd gotten his DNA from a coffee cup he'd left at my apartment 2 months ago when he came to check on me, playing the concerned brother while he'd been lying to my face for 3 decades. My phone buzzed again. A text from Marcus. Tom, we need to talk. This isn't the way to handle this. You're hurting Melissa. I typed back. I raised her, you fucked my wife, and let me pay for your kid. We're done. Another text, this time from Melissa. I hate you. You ruined my wedding. You ruined my life. That money was for my future. I stared at the message. Read it 3 times. Then I typed, I gave you my entire life. You couldn't even give me a seat in the front row. We're done. I blocked them both. Then I blocked Sarah's number, even though she hadn't contacted me in 27 years. Then I blocked 15 other numbers, aunts, uncles, cousins who were suddenly very concerned about family drama. The silence that followed felt like drowning and breathing at the same time. I drove home to my 1-bedroom apartment in the bad part of town, the place with thin walls and a landlord who never fixed anything. I'd lived here for 12 years because every extra dollar went to Melissa, to her future. A future she was now sharing with the man who'd betrayed me. I poured myself a whiskey, cheap stuff from the bottom shelf, sat on my couch that sagged in the middle. My phone kept buzzing. Emails now, Facebook messages. People I hadn't talked to in years suddenly had opinions about what I'd done. I turned it off. The silence was complete. For the first time in 28 years, I had nothing to save for. No one to provide for, no college fund to fill, no future wedding to imagine paying for, though clearly that had never been my responsibility anyway. I was 58 years old, alone, free. I didn't know which feeling was stronger. The next morning I called my supervisor and quit my job at the warehouse. Then I called the hospital and quit my weekend cleaning shift. I kept only one job, the afternoon shift at the grocery store, enough to pay rent and buy food. Nothing more. For the first time in 3 decades, I had time. I started walking, long walks through the city, past places I'd never had time to see because I was always working, coffee shops, parks, bookstores. I started reading again, something I hadn't done since before Melissa was born. I started sleeping 8 hours a night instead of 4. 2 weeks after the wedding, I got a letter from a lawyer. Marcus was threatening to sue me for defamation, for emotional distress. I laughed when I read it, actually laughed. I wrote back through a public defender. I couldn't afford my own lawyer. Defamation requires a false statement. Everything I said was true. DNA tests don't lie. Discovery will be fascinating. I never heard from his lawyer again. Melissa sent one final message through a friend's phone. You're a cruel man. I hope you die alone. Maybe I would die alone. But I'd lived alone too. Lived alone while surrounded by lies. This was different. This was honest. 3 months later, I sold everything I owned, the furniture, the TV, my car, everything. I bought a one-way ticket to Vietnam, a place I'd always wanted to see. A place where the cost of living was low and the food was good and nobody knew who I was or what I'd done. I taught English there to children whose parents actually showed up to teacher conferences, who actually cared. I'm 60 now. I live in a small apartment in Hanoi. I have friends, real friends who don't lie to me. I eat good food. I sleep well. Sometimes I think about Melissa, wonder if she's happy, if Marcus helped her buy a house like he'd promised, if she ever thinks about the man who raised her. But mostly, I don't. Mostly, I think about the life I'm living now. The life I should have been living all along. The life that's finally, honestly mine. I never saw it coming, the betrayal, the lies, the moment everything fell apart. But I saw myself walking away. And that was enough.